Bread, rice, potatoes. The three foods almost every doctor on the internet tells you to fear. And here's what almost none of them tell you. You do not have to give them up to protect your heart. You just have to know the order, the temperature, and the timing, because the spike of glucose is not really about the carb. It's about how you eat the carb. I'm Dr. Kevin Ham, and on this channel, we do one thing really well. We reverse heart disease. You might be wondering what blood sugar has to do with your heart. The answer is everything. Every time your glucose spikes, sugar molecules in your blood crash into the proteins that line your arteries, and it sticks to them. So stay with me, because by the end of the video, you will know 6 simple ways to eat the foods you love and keep the blood sugar flat as a table. And flat blood sugar is one of the quietest, most powerful things you can do for your heart arteries. Doctors call it glycation. Picture coating it with sugar, the inside of your own blood vessels. That sticky, stiffened lining inflames, it cracks, and that crack is exactly where plaque begins to grow. So a flat glucose curve is not just about avoiding diabetes. It is about keeping the walls of your arteries smooth, young, and open. So here's the good news. You can eat the carbs and skip the damage. 5 strategies. Every one of them is free, and every one is backed by real research. So let's go. When you cook rice, potatoes, or pasta and then let it cool in the fridge for several hours or overnight, something beautiful happens to the starch. The molecules reorganize themselves into a form your body cannot break down as easily. We call this resistant starch because it resists digestion. That means a big chunk of those carbs, glucose, travels all the way down to your large intestine instead of flooding your bloodstream with sugar. Same plate of food, much smaller spike. You can gently reheat it and keep most of the benefit. So tonight, cook extra rice or boil a few extra potatoes, cool them overnight, and your leftovers become the lower spike version of the exact same meal. Your gut bacteria feast on that resistant starch too, and they pay you back with compounds that calm inflammation. And inflammation, remember, is the soil that plaque grows in. Number 2, never eat a naked carb. A naked carb is a carbohydrate eaten all by itself. Plain toast, a bowl of white rice, a baked potato with nothing on it. Eaten alone, those carbs sprint straight into your blood and spike your glucose. When you dress them up with other foods, when you pair them with protein, healthy fat, fiber, and a splash of vinegar, you slow everything down. The food leaves your stomach more gradually. The sugar trickles in instead of flooding, and the spike flattens out. Start the meal with a salad before the bread arrives, and let a little vinegar in that dressing do its quiet work. The carb is not the enemy. The lonely carb is. Now, before I give you number 3, I want you in this with me. Here's my question. Do you think a quiet, almost invisible muscle movement you can do sitting down without breaking a sweat could lower your blood sugar as much as going for a walk? Yes or no? And what exercise do you think this is? So pause this video right now and drop your answer in the comments below. Okay, got it? Good. Now, number 3, move the sugar with your muscles. Your muscles are like sponges for glucose. It doesn't require insulin. And the moment you use them, they pull sugar out of your blood and burn it for fuel. No insulin required. The simplest version is just a walk, just 10 to 15 minutes of easy walking after a meal, and can noticeably flatten your spike. But here's the answer to my question, and it surprises almost everyone. There's a small muscle deep in your calf called the soleus. And researchers have found that slow, repeated contractions of that one muscle while you stay seated can keep your blood sugar steadier for hours. You barely move. You can do it at your desk. Don't sit still on top of a meal. Give your muscles something to do. Let them clean up the sugar for you. Number 4, upgrade the carb itself. So here's where it gets fun, because not all carbs are created equal, and I'm going to show you the actual numbers. We measure how fast a food raises your blood glucose with something called a glycemic index. The higher the number, the faster and harder the spike. Under 55 is low and gentle. Over 70 is high and fast. 100 is equivalent to just drinking 100 grams of glucose. Now watch what happens when we put the processed version right next to the whole version of the very same food. Let's start with rice. White rice comes in around at 73. It's high glycemic index. Brown rice, the whole grain version with the bran still wrapped around it, drops a little bit to 68. That's exactly why the cook and cool trick from earlier matters so much with rice. Now oats, and this one's dramatic. Instant oats and steel cut oats start as the exact same grain. The only difference is how finely the oat is chopped and steamed. The little packet of instant oatmeal scores around 79, as high as white bread. You just pour hot water on it and you're ready to eat. Steel cut oats, the same oat just left in bigger intact pieces, sit around 53, very low. Same grain, takes 20-30 minutes to cook though. The processing alone moves your spike by more than 25 points. Now bread is where most people get fooled. White bread is about 75, high, no surprise there. But look at the typical whole grain loaf from the store. It only drops around 71, barely better because the grain has been milled into a fine fluffy flour that your body tears through almost as fast as the white. The label says healthy, but your blood sugar disagrees. So now watch the third bar. The whole grain sourdough falls all the way to about 48, which is low. The slow fermentation eaten by the bacteria and the yeast creates acids that physically slow down how fast you digest the starch. So it's not just whole grain that matters. It is whole grain plus fermentation plus intact structure that wins. And then there's potatoes. A boiled white potato runs around 82, high. But the purple sweet potato, the one people of Okinawa ate as much as 60% of their traditional diet, the same people famous for living past 100, comes in around 54, low. That purple color is not decoration. Those are anthocyanins, the same antioxidants you find in blueberries. They actually slow the breakdown of starch in your gut. With the potato, how you cook it changes the number even more than which potato you grab. This is one sweet potato, top to bottom. Baked in a dry oven, it climbs to around 94, higher than white rice, because the dry heat blasts the starch wide open for fast digestion. Boil that exact same potato instead and it falls to around 46. Then let it cool in the fridge and the starch reorganizes into resistant starch and it drops even lower, into the low 40s. So you just cut the spike of a single food in half and you never even change the food. So 3 free moves stack on one potato. Boil instead of bake. Chill it even briefly and keep the skin on. Now the skin barely moves the spike on its own, only a point or two. So do not believe anyone who tells you it is magic for blood sugar. Don't peel it off. Don't throw it away because that skin and the thin layer just beneath it carry the fiber and the polyphenols, the antioxidants that do the real work. And that brings me to the most important part of this entire video, the bonus hiding in the fiber. Here's what I most want you to hear today. Choosing the whole version of a carb does 2 jobs, not 1. Yes, it flattens your blood sugar, but the fiber you keep when you choose whole is not just packaging, it's medicine, and it works on your heart and your metabolism and your gut microbiome. Start with the steel-cut oats. The fiber in oats is a special soluble fiber called beta-glucan and is one of the most studied heart foods on earth. In your gut, it turns into a thick gel that traps cholesterol and bile acids and carries them out of your body. Your liver then has to pull cholesterol back out of your blood to make more bile. That's the whole trick. About 3 grams of that oat fiber a day, the amount in a generous bowl, lowers your LDL, the cholesterol that builds the plaque, by roughly 5 to 7%. A simple bowl of steel-cut oats is quietly doing a small slice of what a cholesterol drug does. And that's exactly why it carries an official government-approved heart health claim. It's not just oats. The bran on brown rice, the whole grain inside real sourdough, the skin on that potato, every one of them carries fibers that feeds the good bacteria living in your gut. Those bacteria ferment that fiber into compounds that combat inflammation in your arterial walls, the very inflammation that lets plaque grab hold in the first place, oxidizes the LDL. Strip the grain down to white flour, peel the potato, and you toss that protection right into the garbage. And when you zoom all the way out, the picture is staggering. Researchers pooled almost 40 years of data on millions of people. The ones eating the most fiber, around 30 grams a day, had 15 to 30% lower deaths from heart disease, 16 to 24% less heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes than the ones eating the least. Not from a pill, from the bran, the skin, the whole grain that most people are throwing in the trash every single day. You're not just dodging a spike, you're actively pulling your cholesterol down, cooling the fire in your arteries, and stacking the odds for a long life. Number 5, and this may be the easiest free win in the entire video. You can eat the exact same meal that you usually do, the exact same bread, and get a completely different blood sugar spike just by changing the order you eat your food in. Let me walk you down this pathway using a single piece of bread. So if you eat your greens first, you start with your vegetables and your salad, because that fiber lays down a kind of mesh in your gut that the sugar from the bread has to filter through later. Then protein, then fat, your chicken or fish or beans, then your olive oil, your avocados, your nuts. Both protein and fat slow down how fast your stomach empties. So whatever comes next is released gently instead of all at once. Of course, on the reversing arterial plaque diet, we don't eat the fats like the chicken and the meats and the seafood and the oils. Now, step 4, the bread. By the time it finally arrives, it is landing on a stomach already lined with fiber, protein, and fat. Same slice of bread, but the spike it creates is a fraction of what it would have been on an empty stomach. At Weill Cornell, researchers fed people the same meal of bread, chicken, and salad on 2 different days, and when they ate the vegetables and protein first and the bread last, their glucose peak was about 37% lower at 1 hour, and the total glucose over 2 hours was about 73% lower than when they ate that same bread first. Same food, same calories, the only thing that changed was the order. Step 5, if you're going to have a liquid carb, the juice, the soda, the sweet drink, have it right here. Last, with the meal. Never first, never on its own. A sugary liquid has no fiber to slow it. So on an empty stomach, it pours out of your stomach almost instantly and hits like a freight train. Tucked in behind a full meal, that same drink is tamed. And step 6, move. A short walk, or this quiet calf raises from earlier right after you eat, and your muscles mop up the last of the sugar before it can ever spike. Greens, protein, fat, then move. Every spike you flatten is one less injury to the delicate lining of your arteries, one less wave of oxidative stress, and the glycation that silently ages your blood vessels. Flatten the spike and you protect the vessel. Number 6, the clock matters too. Your body handles carbs better earlier in the day when your cells are awake and sensitive to insulin, rather than late at night when they are sleepy and resistant. That giant bowl of pasta lands much harder at 10 at night than it does at noon. I know this works because I've not just lived it, I've measured it. For the past year, I have worn a continuous glucose monitor, a CGM, for 14 days straight every 6 weeks, watching in real time exactly how every meal, every food order, and every walk moves my own blood sugar. 11 months ago, when I set out to reverse the plaque in my own arteries with food, movement, and fasting, I watched the plaque in my carotid arteries shrink in just 3 months. And here's the thing, I'm not low carb. I eat a lot of carbs, complex carbs. Around 70% of my diet is carbs. What I follow is the whole food, plant-based, very low-fat way of eating. This is the diet Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn used for more than 40 years to arrest and even reverse advanced heart disease in his patients at the Cleveland Clinic. Complex carbs, a lot of whole grains, a modest amount of fruit, and 0 refined or added sugars. So here's my glucose. Just look at when I first started and a year after eating this way and figuring all these things out. And my lab work tells me the same thing. I started with a hemoglobin A1C, which is 5.6. Now my hemoglobin A1C is 5.2%, deep in the healthy range. My fasting glucose is excellent, as well as my fasting insulin. I have no insulin resistance. The food is the foundation, but it's not only the thing I do. On top of eating this way, I train hard with high intensity intervals and I fast regularly. I've watched these same simple techniques work for a handful of people I coach, helping them reverse type 2 diabetes, bring their blood pressure down very quickly, strip away visceral fat from their organ, and lower their real risk of a heart attack and stroke. Your arteries are listening to every single meal, so feed them well. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what is the one carb you thought you had to give up, and are you gonna try cooking it and cooling it this week? Share your story, share your own tricks, because someone scrolling these comments needs to read exactly what you're about to write. These videos save lives. Tag me, like, subscribe, and ask your questions below. Click one of these videos and share it with someone you love. Together, we will save lives. For my up-to-date learnings and more, visit me at ham.com.